Start here. Your success is not only being challenged by the obvious problems in your life. It is also being stolen quietly by things that look ordinary, sound harmless, and sometimes even feel comfortable. Those are the biggest thieves. They do not always wear dark masks. Some wear familiar faces. Some sound like your own thoughts. Some sound like advice from people who mean well, but do not understand your future. Some arrive as habits, distractions, excuses, fear, and delay. They do not crash into your life all at once. They enter slowly, softly, and repeatedly. One skipped step becomes a pattern. One ignored responsibility becomes a habit. One more delay becomes a lifestyle. And before long, your potential is still there, but your progress has been quietly drained. If you have been feeling stuck, do not assume you are lazy, broken, or incapable. First, ask what has been taking your strength. What has been draining your attention? What has been weakening your belief? What has been eating your time? What has been stealing your courage? Success is not always lost in one dramatic failure. More often, it leaks away through small daily thieves. These thieves are dangerous because they are familiar. You know them. You have heard them. You have even welcomed some of them. That is why they are so effective. They convince you that a little delay is okay. A little distraction does not matter. A little doubt is normal. A little comfort will not hurt. A little comparison will not change anything. But little by little, they change everything. They weaken discipline. They soften standards. They dull ambition. They make powerful dreams feel distant. And if you are not paying attention, they will rob years while making you believe you are simply taking your time. One of the first thieves is procrastination. Procrastination sounds harmless because it usually promises relief. It says later. It says not now. It says tomorrow will be easier. It says you will work better once you feel more ready. But later is often the place where dreams go to lose momentum. Procrastination is not just delay. It is the habit of choosing temporary comfort over long-term power. It tells you that avoiding the task will protect your energy, but in truth it steals your confidence. Every time you delay what matters, your mind learns that your promises are optional. That is expensive. The cost is not only the missed opportunity. The cost is the quiet damage to self-trust. If you keep saying you will do it, and then not doing it, your brain begins to doubt your own word. And once self-trust weakens, everything becomes harder. So when procrastination speaks, answer it with action. Do the first step. Open the file. Make the call. Start the workout. Write the page. Begin before your mood is perfect. Progress begins where procrastination ends. Another thief is self-doubt. Self-doubt does not always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It asks, who do you think you are? It asks, what if you fail again? It asks, what if you are not as strong as you hoped? Those questions can feel honest, but often they are just fear dressed as wisdom. Self-doubt becomes dangerous when you begin treating it like truth. The mind starts replaying old losses as if they are proof of permanent weakness. But a failure is not your identity. A delay is not your destiny. A rough season is not your name. Self-doubt tries to make you suspicious of your own future before you have even given yourself a chance to build it. And that is why it steals so much. It does not only lower your confidence, it lowers your willingness to try. It makes you shrink before the challenge even arrives. The way out is not pretending fear does not exist. The way out is refusing to let fear make your decisions. You do not need to feel fully certain to move forward. You need enough courage to take one honest step, then another. Each step gives you evidence. Each bit of evidence weakens doubt. Each repeated win, even a small one, rebuilds belief. Comfort is another thief, and it often wears a very familiar face. Comfort feels kind at first. It feels like rest. It feels like kindness to yourself. It says you deserve a break, and sometimes you do. But comfort becomes a thief when it starts replacing growth. It tells you not to push too hard, not to risk embarrassment, not to leave the familiar zone, not to do anything that feels uncomfortable. Comfort whispers that safety is more important than progress. But the truth is, comfort can keep a life small for years. It can turn talent into unused potential. It can turn ambition into fantasy. It can turn a strong person into a quiet observer of their own life. Comfort is dangerous because it is soft, and soft things do not feel like a threat until too much time has passed. Then suddenly your routine is weak, your discipline is loose, your goals are delayed, and your confidence is lower than it was before. If you want success, you must learn to respect discomfort. Discomfort is not always a sign that something is wrong. Often it is a sign that something important is being built. The hard conversation, the early morning, the focused hour, the repeated practice, the disciplined choice, these are not punishments. They are proof that you are no longer letting comfort make your decisions. Comparison is a thief that steals quietly and constantly. It makes you look at other people's progress and forget your own process. It tells you that your pace is too slow because someone else looks faster. It tells you that your life is behind because another person has a result you do not yet have. It tells you that you are less valuable because someone else is more visible. Comparison is especially dangerous because it uses real people to create false pressure. You see their highlight and compare it to your struggle. You see their result and compare it to your work in progress. But you do not know their private battles, their sacrifices, their pain, their delays, or their own unseen doubts. Comparison never tells the whole story. It only tells the part that makes you feel smaller. And a person who feels smaller long enough eventually acts smaller. They stop believing in their own path. They start chasing someone else's timeline. They forget that success grows differently for different lives. Your task is not to become someone else's version of success. Your task is to become stronger, wiser, and more stable in your own. Measure yourself by growth, not by envy. Ask, am I better than I was last season? Am I more disciplined, more honest, more focused, more resilient? Those are the questions that lead you forward. Fear is one of the oldest thieves of all. It does not usually destroy a life by force. It destroys it by hesitation. Fear tells you to wait until you are safer. Wait until you are smarter. Wait until you are more prepared. Wait until the risk feels smaller. But if you keep waiting for fear to disappear, you may wait forever. Fear grows stronger when it is obeyed. Every time you avoid the thing you know you need to face, fear learns that it can control you. And once fear becomes a pattern, it starts deciding what your life is allowed to become. That is why courage is so important. Courage is not loudness. It is not pretending to be unafraid. Courage is action while afraid. It is the decision to move anyway. It is the willingness to let fear sit in the passenger seat without handing it the wheel. Some of your most important breakthroughs will happen on the other side of fear. The call you need to make, the opportunity you need to apply for, the boundary you need to set, the habit you need to begin, the dream you need to finally take seriously. Fear will always have a voice, but it does not deserve authority. You do not need to erase fear. You need to outgrow it through repeated action. Excuses are another thief, and they are especially dangerous because they sound reasonable. Excuses rarely sound like lies. They sound like explanations. They sound like protection. They sound like reality. But too many excuses become a shield that keeps you from accountability. They say you are too busy, too tired, too stressed, too late, too uncertain, too inexperienced. And some of those things may be true in part. Life is real. Pressure is real. Fatigue is real. But excuses become thieves when they stop being temporary explanations and start becoming permanent identities. A responsible person understands that circumstances matter, but they do not surrender control to them. They ask, what can I still do with what I have? That question changes everything. It puts power back in your hands. You may not be able to do everything today, but you can do something. And something done consistently becomes progress. Excuses make you feel justified while keeping you stuck. Responsibility may feel harder at first, but it gives you freedom later. Every time you choose responsibility over excuse, you reclaim a piece of your future. You prove that your circumstances are not the final author of your life. Another thief sometimes hides in plain sight: the wrong environment. Environment shapes behavior more than many people admit. If your surroundings keep pulling you toward distraction, delay, negativity, or low standards, your life will feel harder than it needs to. People, places, routines, and even the content you consume can either strengthen your future or slowly starve it. If everything around you encourages comfort, comparison, or chaos, then your discipline has to fight harder just to stay alive. That is exhausting. It is hard to grow in a place that keeps watering weakness. Sometimes success requires distance from certain influences. Not because you are arrogant, but because you are serious. You may need to limit conversations that drain your mind. You may need to reduce time with people who normalize laziness. You may need to change the way your mornings begin. You may need to clean the space where your focus lives. A better environment does not do the work for you, but it gives your effort a fair chance. It removes friction from the good habits and adds friction to the bad ones. That matters. If your environment is quietly stealing your strength, build a new one, little by little, that supports the person you are becoming. Another thief is emotional reaction. A lot of people lose ground because every feeling becomes a command. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel discouraged, they retreat. If they feel overwhelmed, they disappear. Feelings are real, but they are not always reliable leaders. They are signals, not rulers. A strong person learns how to feel without surrendering. They learn to pause before reacting. They learn to ask, is this feeling asking me to rest, or is it tempting me to quit? Is this stress a sign to adjust, or a sign to run? That kind of emotional maturity protects success because it keeps small moments from becoming big derailments. One rough mood does not need to become a lost week. One disappointing message does not need to become a ruined month. One embarrassing mistake does not need to become a permanent label. The more you practice responding instead of reacting, the more stable your life becomes. Stability is powerful. It lets you recover faster. It lets you stay focused under pressure. It lets you keep moving even when the emotional weather is rough. There is also a thief called unfinished life. This is the weight that comes from carrying too many incomplete promises. Unfinished tasks, unanswered messages, neglected goals, ignored health, unreviewed plans, delayed decisions, and half-built dreams all create a quiet burden. The more unfinished things pile up, the heavier your mind feels. You start waking up tired before the day even begins. You start feeling behind before you have even started. You start dreading your own responsibilities because they have become a mountain of mental noise. The cure is not to do everything at once. The cure is to begin closing loops. Finish one thing, then another, then another. Send the message, pay the bill, clean the corner, write the paragraph, review the plan, make the appointment, cancel the clutter. Every finished task reduces the hidden weight on your mind. Completion restores energy. It creates a feeling of movement. It reminds your brain that your life is not a place where things just accumulate forever. You are capable of closing what you open. That matters because unfinished life is one of the biggest silent thieves of success. It steals peace. It steals focus. It steals momentum. But a life of completion creates confidence. A familiar face can also be the voice in your own head when it says you are still the same person you used to be. That voice often sounds familiar because it has been repeated for years. It may sound like childhood doubts, old embarrassment, previous failures, or repeated criticism from people who never saw your full potential. The problem is that the mind remembers pain very well. It preserves it. It replays it. It tries to use it as evidence for future limits. But memory is not prophecy. Just because you struggled before does not mean you are condemned to struggle forever. You can become a new thinker. You can become a new responder. You can build new habits. You can create new proof. The familiar face of old identity must be challenged. If it says you are inconsistent, prove consistency. If it says you quit, prove endurance. If it says you are not disciplined, prove discipline. If it says you always fall short, prove progress. The point is not to argue endlessly with the old voice. The point is to live in a way that makes the old voice less believable. Over time, evidence becomes stronger than memory. That is how identity changes. You do not need to become someone else. You need to become more honest, more disciplined, more resilient, and more committed than the old story expected you to be. One thief that many people underestimate is loneliness. Not every lonely season is bad, but unhealed loneliness can make you more vulnerable to the other thieves. When people feel unseen, they may seek comfort in distraction, validation, habits that weaken them, or relationships that do not support their growth. Loneliness can push a person into compromise because anything that feels like connection can seem better than empty space. But success cannot be built by filling emptiness with temporary noise. You need to learn how to stand alone without losing your direction. That does not mean isolating yourself from everyone. It means becoming strong enough internally that you do not need constant external noise to feel okay. Solitude can be powerful when used well. It can help you think clearly. It can help you hear your own priorities. It can help you rebuild identity. But if loneliness is left unaddressed, it can become a hiding place for delay. The answer is not to panic. The answer is to build meaningful structure, meaningful habits, and meaningful connections that support growth instead of replacing it. A strong life is not built by avoiding loneliness. It is built by learning how to grow through it without surrendering to weaker patterns. Another thief is impatience. Impatience convinces you that if results are not fast, they are not real. It makes you resent the process. It makes you underestimate the value of repetition. It makes you believe that slow progress means nothing is happening. But most meaningful success is built slowly. Patience is not passive. It is a form of strength. It says I can continue even when the reward is delayed. I can trust the work before I see the outcome. I can stay committed while the future is still forming. That attitude protects you from quitting in the middle. It protects you from rushing into shortcuts that cost more later. It protects you from emotional burnout caused by unrealistic expectations. If impatience is running your life, everything feels urgent and unsatisfying. You keep wanting proof that the work matters, but the proof comes with time. Learn to honor the process. Learn to respect the seasons. Learn to understand that growth is often invisible before it becomes obvious. The seeds in your life are not useless because they have not yet become a harvest. They are working beneath the surface. Patience gives them room to do their work. Discipline is what helps you fight back against these thieves. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about returning to the routine, returning to the standard, returning to the work, returning to the truth, returning after a setback, after a bad day, after a moment of weakness. A disciplined person does not let one interruption become a total collapse. They know how to restart. And that restart is a form of power. It says the thief did not win permanently. It says the door is still open. It says your future is still available if you keep showing up for it. Discipline is also how you build confidence. Each time you follow through, you send a message to your own mind that you can be trusted. That message slowly repairs what neglect, fear, and self-doubt tried to damage. The more you practice discipline, the less power the thieves have. They may still speak, but they do not rule. They may still tempt, but they do not own you. That is the shift that changes a life. A person who can keep returning to the right path becomes very hard to defeat. There is a special kind of strength that comes from learning to protect your attention. Attention is one of the most valuable currencies in your life. Where it goes, your future goes. If your attention is constantly stolen by noise, your life will feel fragmented. If your attention is guarded, your life becomes more intentional. Protecting your attention means more than deleting distractions. It means deciding what deserves your mental energy. It means not letting every opinion enter your spirit. It means not spending all day feeding comparison, outrage, or empty content. It means making room for quiet work, thinking, planning, and growth. A focused mind is a successful mind because it can stay with what matters long enough to produce results. The thieves want your attention because they know your life follows it. So be deliberate. Guard the windows of your mind, not with fear, but with wisdom. The more intentional your attention becomes, the more your life starts to feel like it belongs to you again. That ownership is powerful. It gives you the ability to shape your direction instead of being shaped by everything around you. You also need to know that some thieves are not just habits or thoughts. Some are unfinished boundaries. If people around you keep taking your time, your energy, your peace, or your standards, and you never say no, you can lose more than you realize. Boundaries are not about pushing everyone away. They are about protecting what matters. A person who never sets boundaries eventually becomes exhausted, resentful, and scattered. They keep giving, but their own life becomes neglected. They keep absorbing, but they have no room left to build. Clear boundaries help you stay aligned. They remind others and yourself that your life is not available to be consumed by everything. This matters especially when your goals are still fragile. Protect the early stages. Protect the routines. Protect the quiet work. Do not allow people or situations to repeatedly interrupt what is trying to grow. You are allowed to care about your future enough to defend it. In fact, you must. Because if you do not protect your growth, the thieves will gladly take whatever they can get. Another thief wearing a familiar face is perfectionism. Perfectionism disguises itself as high standards, but it often hides fear. It tells you that if you cannot do it perfectly, you should not do it at all. It delays action. It creates pressure. It makes ordinary progress feel insufficient. And because it sounds responsible, people often trust it. But perfectionism can become a trap that keeps you from ever truly starting. Success requires movement, not flawless performance. You do not need the perfect plan to begin. You need a real plan and the courage to improve it along the way. Perfectionism can make you overly critical of yourself, which drains the energy you need to keep going. It can make you obsess over small flaws while ignoring the bigger picture. It can convince you that being imperfect makes you unworthy of progress. That is not true. Progress belongs to people who are willing to be in process. They do not expect every step to be polished. They expect to learn. They expect to adjust. They expect to improve as they go. That mindset is healthier and far more useful. It protects you from becoming frozen in fear of not getting it exactly right. Some of the biggest thieves are familiar because they live in your habits. A habit is a repeated agreement. If you keep agreeing to delay, you become a person who delays. If you keep agreeing to distraction, you become a person who is easily pulled away. If you keep agreeing to negative self-talk, you become a person who weakens their own belief. That is why changing a life often begins with changing what you repeat. The body remembers repetition. The mind trusts repetition. Identity grows from repetition. So ask yourself what you have been practicing without realizing it. Have you been practicing excuses? Have you been practicing avoidance? Have you been practicing comfort? Have you been practicing insecurity? Then it is time to practice something different. Practice completion. Practice courage. Practice focus. Practice patience. Practice honesty. Practice discipline. Practice one small action that proves the old pattern no longer owns you. Habits may feel small, but they are powerful because they are multiplied daily. A small habit repeated for a year can either destroy or restore your future. That is why this matters so much. Now here is the hopeful part. If these thieves can be learned, they can be unlearned. If they can be repeated, they can be interrupted. If they can steal through habit, you can build through habit. That means your future is not fixed by the patterns that have ruled you up to this point. You can change direction. You can become more disciplined. You can become more focused. You can become more resilient. You can become someone who notices the thieves sooner and refuses to give them entry. The first step is awareness. The second step is honesty. The third step is action. Call the thief by its name. If it is procrastination, name it. If it is doubt, name it. If it is comfort, name it. If it is comparison, name it. If it is fear, name it. If it is distraction, name it. If it is neglect, name it. Once something is named clearly, it loses some of its mystery. And once it loses mystery, it becomes easier to fight. You are not powerless. You are learning. You are awakening. You are becoming more aware of what has been draining you, and that awareness is the beginning of a stronger life. The moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim of vague forces and start identifying the specific thieves, you become more effective. Then you can build a response. You can set a better routine. You can change your environment. You can put more structure around your day. You can reduce the habits that weaken you. You can increase the habits that strengthen you. You can create a life that is less vulnerable to theft. This is what it means to take your future seriously. Not by becoming paranoid, by becoming intentional. Intentional people do not let every feeling run their life. Intentional people do not let every distraction decide their day. They keep returning to what matters. They build, protect, and repair. And over time, those choices create momentum. Momentum becomes confidence. Confidence becomes consistency. Consistency becomes strength. Strength becomes a life that can withstand pressure without losing direction. Remember this. Success is not only stolen by obvious failure. It is often stolen by small familiar compromises that look harmless until they become patterns. But you do not have to stay trapped in that pattern. You can interrupt it today. You can decide that the thieves will not keep taking from you. You can decide that your time, your energy, your attention, your self-respect, and your future matter too much to keep leaving unguarded. Guard your mind. Guard your habits. Guard your attention. Guard your standards. Guard your peace. Guard your direction. That is how you keep what you build. That is how you turn potential into progress. And that is how you become the kind of person who is no longer easy to rob. So if your life has felt drained, do not only ask what you are missing. Ask what has been taking it. Ask what familiar face has been quietly working against your growth. Then rise with clarity. One thief at a time. One habit at a time. One boundary at a time. One honest decision at a time. The thieves may have had access before, but they do not get permanent ownership. Your future is still yours to build, and now you know where to protect it. Keep going. Keep building. Keep choosing the stronger path. Because the life you want is not just waiting to be found. It is waiting to be defended, and you are more capable than the thieves ever expected. The biggest thieves do not always arrive looking dangerous. Sometimes they arrive sounding familiar, feeling comfortable, and even sounding wise. They say you need more time. They say nobody will notice if you skip today. They say one compromise will not matter. They say you should wait until you feel better. They say everyone is doing the same thing. That is why they are so effective. They sound like permission. But permission to drift is not permission to grow. You do not need more permission to stay small. You need more courage to become serious. Serious about your mind. Serious about your time. Serious about your habits. Serious about your future. A serious person is not cold. A serious person is committed. They understand that success is built on what you protect. Protect your mornings from chaos. Protect your focus from noise. Protect your standards from neglect. Protect your dreams from delay. Protect your peace from unnecessary drama. These protections are not luxuries. They are the walls that keep your future safe long enough for it to become visible and strong enough for you to keep it and to build on it well.